What's going down, everybody? This is your boy, Big Drewski, and welcome to another edition of Space Bucket Growing with Drewski. Sponsored by Mostly Safe 8. That's Rain Man Space Bucket Micro Grows on Instagram. You can catch them. Please check out their store on Etsy. Check out some of their Pro Build Space Buckets. Come with LEDs. Let me get my speech right, y'all. We got fan adapters. The whole kit and caboodle, everything that you're going to need to sustainably grow cannabis indoors, stealth. You can grow potatoes, you can grow peppers. You don't just have to grow cannabis in a space bucket. So check them out on Etsy. Check out our other sponsor. That's Lotus Eater Organics at Lotus-Eater Organics on Instagram. Always coming through, supplying us with buckets and everything like that. Some of the dopest stuff on the market right now. If you're talking about bomb edibles, man, Lotus Eater Organics is going to have it for you. We got some other things on the works here, you guys. You know what I'm saying? I know y'all got it all up on lock, and y'all follow us on the gram. I appreciate that. That's What Are We Doing _podcast. You can follow my boy Stacks510. You can also follow the Elevated Lifestyle brand. That's Elevated Lifestyle LV on Instagram as well. And follow along with our journey, man. We got merch. We got CBD t-shirts. We got ladies baseball tees. We got crew necks and hoodies. We got cell phone cases. So check us out, man. Support the store, support the movement, you know what I'm talking about? And let's get into the show. So what's going down, everybody? This is your boy, Big Drewski. We've been getting into a lot of stuff. Thanks for tuning in to What Are We Doing with Stacks and myself, Big Drewski. You know what I'm saying? That episode was nice and fun. We talked about our grows. We talked about outdoor versus indoor growing. We talked about the similarities of what we're doing. We kind of educated each other on what's happening via our grows. And we went that way. And that's why I kind of went on and labeled this one Growth in All Forms. The reason why this one's Growth in All Forms, folks, is because we've gotten to a few things on the Space Bucket, on Space Bucket 2.0/2.5, whatever you want to call it. We had to build another spacer, and that was for a couple of reasons. It was getting a little hot inside the bucket, and that was due to A, height growth of the plant, and B, how low the lights were to the plant, and for 4 CFL lights at a kind of a high watt, bursting at 18 hours a day, only being off for 6, I can only see with 2 fans how the heat would get a little bit deeper in there. So what I did was I built the third spacer and I put that one on top. Inside that spacer, I cut out a notch and I put in a PC fan. Powering that fan is the lights. And so it's all up on one switch. But I use that intake fan to cool the air going in towards the lights. And then you have the exhaust fan that's literally a few inches away from that in the center of the 4 CFL bulbs. And that's the exhaust fan. So hopefully there's some more fan going inside the bucket with the one fan that's on the lower end. You've got the one on the now third spacer, and then you have a fan on the light lid as an exhaust. So you've got 2 intakes, 1 exhaust. Hopefully we're getting a lot cooler air in there. And that's kind of one of the things that we've gotten into. We've made the space bucket taller with the addition to another spacer, but we also had to install a new fan as well just to make everything cool down and disperse more air around. I've noticed in my clippings as I do defoliation and I kind of am checking my plant out and I'm getting rid of certain leaves on certain branches and things of that nature, that those leaves do hold a lot of moisture in them as well. So, you know what I'm saying? You got to be really careful about moisture inside the area that you're working in too. Moisture, heat, mold. You don't want none of that to happen. So that's another reason why I installed another fan. Is just so we can keep air moving and circulating, and so nothing gets, too stale or stagnant or even grows mold. So there's a few reasons for that. Now, another thing I want to get into is our cannabis growth project. Now, we've got a few things that we've been working with and reading up on before we get anything done. And so, in the Nectar of the Gods sample pack, we got quite a few things. And I wanted to go over those today because these are going to be the things that help in our cannabis growth, especially once we've got the final flip the flower, we start feeding her, and we see what's going to happen on that end. So I'm going to just read off some of the things that we do have on deck from Nectar of the Gods. We're also going to read off the feeding regimen that they've given us for this as well, and we're going to get into that. So first thing that they recommend you feed your plant, and this is actually in order too. This is how they want you to mix everything in your gallon of water. So we're going to go with the early flower stage. We're going to do 2 tablespoons per gallon of water of Medusa's Magic. And Medusa's Magic is a soil nutrient, rated a 252 mix. Shake well before use. It also contains non-plant food ingredients. It's got 2% nitrogen, 5% available phosphate, and potash, or K2O, is going to be 2%. So this is a soil nutrient that we're going to be using. And that's the soil nutrient. So you mix this first. 2 tablespoons of this. And then the next one you add is 2 tablespoons of Gaia Mania, which is a supplement rated at 1:1:1 ratio. Another one, you got to shake it really good. Another one with some nitrogen, phosphate, potash, and calcium. This one actually has 1% calcium in it. But for the supplement, you're going to do 2 tablespoons of that. No, 2 teaspoons. I'm sorry. I'm giving y'all all kinds of 2 teaspoons of each. 2 teaspoons of Medusa's Magic, 2 teaspoons of Gaia Mana, and now 1 tablespoon of Athena's Omnias, which is a 0.500 rating. I have no clue of what this is, but it says, during vegetative growth, mix 1/2 to 1 ounce per gallon of water every time you feed. During bloom phase, mix 1 ounce per gallon of water every time you feed. EC of nutrient solution should not exceed 1,500 parts per million. So, something to get into on that. I'll read a little bit more about Athena's Omnias, but it is something that we do have included in the Nectar of the Gods sample pack, and we'll be using 1 tablespoon of this. Now, Demeter's Destiny is another one. We can rationalize this. We can go 1 to 2 teaspoons. This is going to be liquid calcium at a 0.0 to 0.5 to 0 rating. And you apply this every time that you feed. Just make sure your pH is at around the 6.4 meter. So you can go from 1 to 2 teaspoons of this in the early flower stage, according to the sample kit regimen that Nectar of the Gods gives you. Everybody that I know and everything that I've read always tell you to start low. So that's what I would do. Start with the 1 and then graduate to 2 as you go along. Next is going to be Herculean Harvest, which is liquid bone meal rated at 0.60. You're going to do 2 tablespoons of Herculean Harvest. You do this every time that you feed. So, I would suggest getting a few gallon jugs ready. You can get this all sampled up or mix it per every time that you do it. Make sure you got your pH up with you, and you can get that going. After the Herculean Harvest, we have Zeus Juice, which is going to help a growth enhancer. You can use this in soil or you can use this in hydro. With the Zeus Juice, you're going to go with 2 teaspoons of this per gallon of water once you mix this in. And then you're going to check your pH levels and all that good stuff. Now, I do have a couple of other things. I have the Olympus Up, which is the pH up. So this is going to, because with all these nutrients that we have, it's going to kick the pH level way down in your water. So what you're going to do is you're going to use the Olympus Up until your pH is from around 6.3 to 6.8. So just make sure you've got your pH meter with you once you start mixing, because you don't want to mess up your plants. We also have a sample of Full On, which is a specialty plant nutrient rated at a 1 to 0.1 and 0.7 rated with the nutrients. And it's a concentrated premium nutrient blend that enhances plant growth throughout all stages of the growth cycle. Apparently this stuff, the Full On, is supposed to help your plant absorb all the nutrients that you're giving it more efficiently. This is from what I understand. Haven't used it yet, so we've got Full On. We're going to see what happens with that. And then we have a foliar spray that from early to late flower, the ratings differ from 1 teaspoon per quart for a foliar spray to 1 tablespoon per quart for a foliar for a foliar spray. So you can actually spray this on the leaves and everything like that. I haven't seen anything on this that says that you have to adjust pH. So it's just something, nothing that's indicated on this that you have to adjust the pH with the foliar spray. Just make sure that you do measure correctly when you're making your quarts of water to use for your foliar spray. That's what I recommend doing. Everybody, you need to read your instructions. Everything that happens and comes in these packages comes for a reason, especially instructions wise. They want you to follow these because these are going to help your plants grow in the most efficient way possible, and you might get more than what you expected. So with that, I'm waiting for a pH meter and pH strips just to be double efficient. And what I'm doing, remember, this is my first grow. I don't want to mess anything up. I've already beat this plant up enough as it is, and it's giving me time to realize that planning is what's going to give you the most efficient cannabis grows at the end of the day. So, there's a lot of things that we can get into on that nature. We're always still growing. We're always still doing something. Speaking of growing, we're in the process of building Bucket 3 now, or Bucket 3.0. Bucket 3.0 is really the LED build. So on that note, what I did was I've started with the initial bucket because I want this process to go right. The initial bucket process goes like this. What we did was we took one bucket, cleaned it out completely. I let that dry, and then as it was drying, I took the bottom of it, flipped it, and put that on at the opposite side, and I drilled holes on the bottom. That's for drainage. After I drilled the holes, I made sure everything was smoothed out on the bottom end, and then proceeding to line with foil tape. Now, this is the most difficult part of this thing, is lining a full 5-gallon bucket with foil tape. Let me tell you guys, and I know my sponsor can hear me out on this. If you've lined a full bucket with foil tape instead of like a Mylar and just rolled it down with some glue and made sure everything was nice, foil tape's a whole new beast. Like, it's delicate. You got to measure out strips, find out how many exactly you need, and then proceed to lay everything down in the most like narcissistically careful way possible. And that had to take me about like a good like hour and a half, just because like getting inside the bucket and making sure like the edges are laid down and then laying everything down flat, bringing that up, doing it just like you would do a spacer, but lining your a singular bucket, and to also get the lumen tightness so you don't have to cover the outside of it. That's what's the most like difficult part of this is the lining of the bucket with the foil tape. Once you've got that part down and you've got your spacers cut out and built, everything else is pretty much a go, especially if you've got like a circular shaped LED light to work with. Drilling the holes for placement so you can actually lock it up to the lid, drilling a hole for a lid, and drilling a hole for your outlet, the plug to actually come out. Those aren't the hard parts. The hard part about this whole process to me is lining this whole thing up with tape. I could cut stuff all day, but then when you gotta like actually sit down and like lie this foil tape down, which is really delicate to use unless you got aluminum foil tape, and it's aluminum foil duct tape if you want to get the thicker stuff. If you just get foil tape, it's going to be thin, it's going to be delicate, and you're going to want to rip your eyes out. I'm dead serious. I'm just telling you guys this from experience, but I do not enjoy working with foil tape, but at the end of the day, like for efficiency, man, this stuff gets the job done. Lumen tightness, not a problem. Especially once I saw like the test done myself and I lined half a spacer, I put my lights on and I just saw it. Like, I didn't need any other tape on the outside of my spacer on my space bucket. So me wasting money on black duct tape was a waste of time. I saw that I could have bought another pH meter for my other bucket, the one that kind of sits in your soil. I can get one of those. You can get a pH meter for a good few bucks, and it'll measure, your pH in your water and in your soil. So that's just something like, now that I realize that you can put that money into something else. So if you guys are building a space bucket, you guys are planning on building one, my advice, get white buckets. Go for it. Just be more meticulous in using your aluminum foil duct tape. I would do this. Get 2 different types of foil tape. Get aluminum foil duct tape for the inside of your bucket. It's thicker. It's easier to work with. It won't fold and bunch up on you. And then for your spacers, just use regular foil tape. The thinner stuff, you can cut that down into strips easier. If you need to do some patchwork, it doesn't look bad. It actually blends in really well. And you can go from there. So from there, now I've noticed that this UFO LED light that I have hangs, and it's got some good hang time to it, a good like 2.5, 3 inches. So on that end, I just took the rest of my buckets and built spacers. Nothing with fans or anything inside them yet, but I've built the spacers. I cut out the spacers, and in doing that, I just noticed that it's needed. As soon as you get a UFO light, plan on one of those buckets that you have. Automatically, it's a lid spacer. Realizing that your little 5 meters isn't going to do too much, but it's going to do something. So for me, this was kind of a 1 spacer build. I know 2 spacers would have been like dope, but this is going to be my middle spacer. Like the way this is planned out is bucket, plain spacer, LED spacer, plain spacer, spacer light lid. Yeah, I'll show you guys in the next few days here once I get everything like lined up, because what I'm doing is too, with the fan placement on bucket 1 and the fan placement in the spacers, I'm building the spacers a little different so everything kind of locks in and it connects to each other like Lego blocks. There's going to be notches to where everything just kind of fits, click, 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 and it all sits in one spot. You don't have to worry about anything else moving or different parts moving or people, you moving it when you're, taking it apart to water your plants and things of that nature. Everything's pretty much like a big Lego block, the way I've got everything lined up. So that's how the plan is in my head, and that's how I've got it written down on paper. It's just cutting out those notches. The fan placements on the spacers are going to have to be a little bit different. The spacers are actually going to be built way different than the first one, just because of the notches, just because of the LED lights. So there's going to be a lot more air moving around in this bucket because I'm going to have a lot more light, especially with the foil tape, LEDs reflecting around all over the place, and then I've got red, blue LED strips in the middle of it. So once this thing starts popping up in height, and I start using those side LEDs for more lighting, A, this thing's going to be bright. B, it's going to be hot. So that's why I'm really planning on a 3-fan setup just for the bucket setup itself. I'm kind of glad that the lighting has its own fan, and that just gives you a testament of how hot that light setup gets. We've been given a mission to push this light to the limit at an 18/6 schedule to start. Like, I'm really kind of afraid of that because I know that there's certain times and you don't want this light to overheat and things of that nature. But logging that the light hours that it should last is about 5 years. And the mission we've been given by our sponsors is to push this thing to the limit. So this is going to go for a full grow. Like, I'm really about to use this thing on a full grow from seed to harvest. And starting off on an 18/6 schedule, I mean, it's just going to have to happen. But knowing that the recommended light uses is different, that's for everything, though. I mean, shoot, the CFLs I have in there I shouldn't have on, but for a few, this and that, they're not made to be on all day, things of that nature. But, you know what I'm saying, running them 18 hours and then running them now on a 12/12 schedule, I haven't seen any problems with the lights. I haven't had to replace any of the CFLs, and I know these LEDs are supposed to be some monsters, so I'm going to push her. I'm going to push the shit out them things. That being said, though, I might wait just height-wise on using the red-blue LEDs that I have for the bucket that set up right that we're setting up. Just because I don't know how hot they'll get, and that's something I might test out a little bit later on. I might do it tonight. Actually, that I'm thinking about it. I've already got them, test fitted for power wires. So I just might leave these on for like a day, and periodically see how hot that area is, how hot it gets. Do it in a controlled area. Like I'm gonna dump the whole thing in a bucket, plug it in, and just see how hot that bucket gets. With the 50/50s. And then we already know how that LED works. That thing made me see spots. But, it's another day. But that's the plans, everybody. We talk nutrients. We talk height growth in the spacers. We talk plant growth. We talked about building bucket 3. Plans on that and how that went. Or the lying of foil tape. Because that's a whole nother monster in itself. And now we're going to test these 50/50 LED lights, even though we've had them for like a week. So, y'all, that was growth in all forms. This, again, is your boy Drewski. Next week, I'll have some things to tell you guys about. I know on Friday, we're doing another episode of What Are We Doing? We have 2 to 3 potential new things that we're working with, but we'll tell you the details on that on Friday once we get to that show, and I can kind of spring it on everybody at the same time. So thanks for listening, you guys. Catch us on Instagram, What Are We Doing _podcast. Catch us our other page with our merchandise. That's Elevated Lifestyle LV. You can click the link in the bio to get some of our merchandise. Check out our sponsor at Mostly Safe 8. That's Rain Man Space Bucket Microgrows on Instagram. You can check them out on Etsy. And we'll catch you in the next couple of days, y'all. Thanks for listening.